There's life here, but not as we know it. Alien-like creatures produce dazzling displays of light. Nearly all animals need to attract mates and repel predators. This language of light is so widespread here that these signals are probably the commonest form of communication on the entire planet. And yet we still know little about them. Hunters illuminate themselves and, by doing so, attract inquisitive prey. This is fangtooth. It has the largest teeth for its size of any fish. There are pressure sensors all over its head and body, which can detect anything moving in the surrounding water. It's the Midnight Zone's most voracious fish. But prey use light as a distraction. A decoy of luminous ink. Down here, in this blackness, creatures live beyond the normal rules of time. Siphonophores are virtually eternal. They repeatedly clone themselves. Some eventually growing longer than a blue whale. Down here, it snows. Continuous clouds of organic debris drift slowly down from above. This is food, and a whole variety of filter feeders depend on it. Jellyfish, and delicate sea cucumbers. The 1% of marine snow they miss eventually settles on the sea floor. Over millions of years, it forms a layer of mud up to a kilometre thick. It's an empty plain that covers half the surface of our planet. The deep seabed may at first appear lifeless, but it's home to a unique caste of mud dwellers. The sea toad. It is an ambush predator with an enormous mouth and infinite patience. This fish has been living for so long here that its fins have changed into something more useful. Feet. They help it shuffle about on the seafloor. The flapjack octopus. It hovers just above the surface of the mud as it delicately sifts through it, searching for worms. But it can jet away at the first sign of danger. In the underwater forests off northern Japan, the residents of this sunken wreck are waiting for the summer temperatures to reach 16 degrees Celsius. That, for some, is the time for mating. Kind of giant wrasse called a crocodile. This is a male. And in female terms, he's particularly handsome. He's a metre long and weighs 15 kilos. Much larger than the diminutive female. And he is ready to breed. He attempts to mate with her, and with any of the other dozen or so females that live in his territory, whenever he gets the chance. But females from around 10 years old take little notice of his advances. This is because when any large female reaches a critical body size, she can begin a dramatic transformation. Over just a few months, particular enzymes inside her body cease to work. And male hormones start to circulate. As time passes, her head expands and her chin gets longer. A she has changed into a he. And with this comes a change in temperament. The old male who ruled all the females here is challenged to a face-off. The more bulbous the head, the more it intimidates an opponent. The territory has a new ruler. Only the largest females transform themselves in this way. But the change enables them to have more mates, so they will have many more offspring carrying their genes. But a new male can't afford to be complacent. Inside the body of every Cobudae female, there is a new male in waiting. Christmas Island in the Indian Ocean. For millions of years, this remote speck of land has been ruled by crabs. Their ancestors came from the sea, but most have now adopted a land-based existence. Given there are so many of them, they get along relatively harmoniously. They're the gardeners and caretakers of a tiny crab utopia. Once a year, they must all return to the sea to breed, and the march of the red crabs is one of the greatest natural spectacles on Earth. There are 50 million of them. It's an event that has brought the island worldwide fame. But in recent years, millions of red crabs haven't managed to reach the sea. An invader has occupied this island. Yellow crazy ants. They escaped from visiting ships, and with no predators to control them, they have now created vast super colonies in the forest. When migrating red crabs march into their territory, the ants attack, squirting acid into the crabs' eyes and mouths. The crabs have no defense. Blinded and confused, they're doomed. Humans brought these ant invaders here, and now humans are having to control them. Isolated communities may evolve for millions of years in relative peace. But when new challenges arrive, they can struggle to cope. Of all the species that have become extinct in recent years, around 80% have been islanders. This tiny poison arrow frog is carrying his tadpole piggerback. It hatched on a leaf, and now he's taking it to a pool in a bromeliad, high up in the branches. The tadpole wriggles off. He may have half a dozen babies, each of which he puts into its own tiny pool. He makes regular tours of all his nurseries, checking on his tadpole's welfare. This youngster is hungry and tells him so by nibbling his legs and vibrating against his body. But the male can't feed the tadpole himself. He needs help. He has to find a female. There she is. He calls. And she follows. He has to lead, for only he knows exactly where he deposited each tadpole. This one is now very hungry indeed. He calls to the female encouragingly. She jumps in, perhaps to assess the situation. Out she comes without having done what's required, so he keeps calling. In she goes a second time. This time she produces food for the hungry tadpole, an infertile egg. There. Out she comes, and mother and father embrace. Baby has its dinner. They're setting off on the greatest overland trek made by any animal. grass-eaters travel, predators lie in wait. Here they are, Arctic wolves. They must seize their chance while the caribou pass through their territory. The wolf runs at the herd, trying to flash out the weak or the slow. A calf is separated. At full tilt, 60 kilometers an hour, the wolf is just faster. Has stamina. Only a few weeks old, and this calf's will to survive is remarkable. And it needs to be, for these young caribou have now started a journey that will last a lifetime. Forever chasing the seasonal growth of the grass on which they depend. Like all grassland creatures, they are at the mercy of these unpredictable but ultimately bountiful lands. Grass can survive some of the harshest conditions on Earth: flood, fire and frost, and still flourish. So it is that grasslands provide a stage for the greatest gatherings of wildlife on planet Earth. This far ant has reached the edge of her known world. Her way forward has now become blocked by the rising waters. She's one of many, and in a few minutes their underground home will be submerged. Forced to evacuate, workers and soldiers try to save the larval young. As their nest floods, the colony seems to be doomed. From chaos comes order. The far ants band together, each locking legs with its neighbours. They're building a living raft. Each ant is covered in fine hairs that trap air against its body. As the raft forms, this air creates a cushion for them all to float on. This is the power of the colony. By working together, they've become unsinkable. And no one gets left behind. Pulled from the shallows, the colony is now at the mercy of the flood. Holding tight to the larvae and keeping their queen hidden at the centre of the raft, the colony drifts into deeper water. Where they're vulnerable to fish that now swim through the flooded forest. Those that lose their grip must get back to the safety of the raft. Now a few females appear. They're much bigger than the males, and warming will take them longer. She releases a scent, a pheromone, that attracts the males. They outnumber her 100 to 1. To speed her own return to activity, she will absorb heat from them. Intoxicated by her scent, the males compete for her, wrapping themselves around her. She now has hundreds of males on top of her, making mating near impossible. But she has a way of weeding out the men from the boys. She'll make a daring ascent of the nearby cliff. She barges her way through the crowd to get to the rock face. As she climbs, only the strongest, fittest males can keep up with her. She's made it to the top. Only a few of her suitors have managed to rise to the occasion, and she may reward them all. The rare and wonderful golden frog. It does have a voice, but it's not loud. Individual males set up their territories beside the river and then wait for females to turn up. And since good positions for the territory are not common, they may have to hold them against intruders. And here one comes. Just in case his call is inaudible, he makes his message clear with a wave. And his rival waves back. He repeats his message so there's no misunderstanding. But rival is not deterred. Well, that makes things perfectly clear. Another arrives. Perhaps at last this is a female. it's another male, so there will have to be a wrestling match. That should teach him. And his rival signals submission by keeping his head down. Now, where are those females? And here she is. She is pure, unblemished gold, and much bigger than he is. A finch. A female. Its ancestors doubtless were blown here by storms many centuries ago. Like most finches, they feed on seeds, nectar, and insects. But there's little food of any kind on wolf. And since they aren't strong enough flyers to leave the island, they've had to find food from a very unusual source. They depend on another of the island's inhabitants. Nazca boobies. Every day, these seabirds commute between the island and their fishing grounds out in the open ocean. Each time a pair meet, they renew their bond and then catch up with the neighbours. Now is the time to hop into action. Blood. They are vampire finches. These little birds have become one of the world's newest species. She cuts the quill of a large flight feather and the blood flows. The sight of it attracts the attention of others. Blood is very nutritious, worth fighting for. So, with this never-ending supply of food, the vampire finches can flourish on an island where otherwise they could not survive. Why the boobies don't object, nobody knows. Perhaps the finches' behaviour started when they helped the boobies to remove parasites from their plumage. Maybe the boobies think that the little vampires are still providing a service. Who can tell? In just 3 weeks, 500,000 calves are born on these ash-rich plains. That's 24,000 a day, 1,000 an hour. Calves stand up within a few minutes of being born, though some need a little more time to find their feet. But a mother won't let her calf suckle until it's mastered a few physical skills. Walking, trotting, and running. Wildebeest calves must run if they're to stay alive. For these plains also support the greatest assembly of hunters on the planet. Each species has its own special hunting technique, but all have the same aim: to make the most of this brief superabundance of life. Only 1 in 10 wildebeest calves will survive to adulthood. But that is enough to maintain the million-strong herd of wildebeest and the planet's highest density of predators. A little red flying fox. Their ancestors flew here, travelling along the chain of volcanic islands that links Asia to Australia. But their huge wings, which stretch from their fingers to their toes, make it difficult for them to walk or take off from the ground. So when they want to rest, they hang upside down in trees. But the bats have to drink every day. And they do so on the wing. They swoop just low enough to wet their bellies, and then, back in their roosts, they will suck out the water. Each evening, 10,000 of them come here. Not all of them return. Every 2 meters of river, there is a crocodile. They were here long before the bats. Survivors from Australia's prehistoric past. These dramas have been taking place for millions of years. Aerial agility versus patience and deadly speed. Australia's forests are hostile places in which to make your home. St Andrew's Beach is one of the most crowded on the planet, and so holding a territory here is a constant battle. This bull elephant seal holds the mating rights to 60 females. For 2 months, he's guarded this stretch of beach. Unable to feed, he's losing 10 kilos a day. And he's exhausted. But other bulls are lying around, waiting their chance. Blubber, 15 centimeters thick, is protection against the cold, but not from the impact of a 4-ton opponent. Holds his ground and forces the intruder back out to sea. Life in the Antarctic is harsh indeed. But all these creatures come here because the Southern Ocean is one of the richest on Earth. 3 weeks ago, these mile-wide sandbars didn't exist. In another 3 months, they'll be back underwater. But now they provide a crucial opportunity for giant river turtles. They've been coming here at precisely this time of year for generations. "50,000 of them, a quarter of the world's population. They're all here for one reason, but their window of opportunity is short, so timing is everything. Scaling the 3-meter-high banks will take this female higher and drier than she's been for months. She's come here to lay her eggs. But others have beaten her to it. The early arrivals have already claimed nearly every inch of the beach. And there are still many more turtles to come. Wherever she turns, the space is taken. But being fashionably late does have an advantage. Had she arrived earlier, her eggs might have been dug up by those searching for somewhere to lay. She's found her spot. Settling down, she lays nearly 100 eggs. Burying them keeps them safe from predators, and the warm sand incubates the clutch. They must hatch before the river rises again and floods the sandbar. Any turtles that lay after her may have left it too late. Hopefully, she has got her timing right. Two months on, and the hatchlings emerge into the world. They were laid at the perfect time. Hundreds scramble for the river just as the water starts to rise. Those still to hatch aren't so lucky. A baby North American painted turtle. It and the rest of its clutch have only just hatched. But it's late in the year, and the chill of winter has already begun. If the hatchlings clambered out of their hole now, they would find nothing to eat, so they stay where they are. The temperature will fall to -10 degrees. Ice crystals grow around the babies and even inside their bodies, but their tissues are protected by a kind of antifreeze. This would kill any mammal or bird. They remain in this deep freeze for up to 6 months. But spring comes at last. The ice melts around them and eventually within them. Slowly, they begin to come to life. It takes quite a time for them to become fully functional, but eventually they're ready to face the outside world. So, by allowing their bodies to cool, they have avoided the hard times. With the arrival of spring, their parents are now preparing to breed again. The male courts the female by gently strumming her cheeks with his long claws. And she responds. Cold blood is clearly no barrier to affection. In fact, reptiles can conduct as complex and as sensitive a courtship as many a mammal. Off the south coast lies by far the biggest of them, Tasmania. And that has its own special marsupial. One that seldom appears until after dark. The Tasmanian devil. Many predators inhabit a territory packed with prey, but here there's nothing like that for them. Each may travel for miles, night after night, prepared to eat anything it can find, dead or alive. The shoreline is a good place to search. There might be some small creatures to catch here, or maybe something that the tide has brought in. The carcass of a wallaby has been washed ashore. Tasmanian devils can eat 40% of their body weight in one session, and they have hugely powerful jaws. They tackle everything, even bones. Back at the den, there are other hungry mouths. Her two youngsters are 6 months old. They still rely on their mother's milk, but they're feeling peckish. There must be something solid they could find for themselves while they're waiting for a drink. Is this food? That possum smells tasty, but it's a little high up. This looks more promising. At last, a giant stick. Not bad for a first go. Their mother will protect and feed these youngsters for another 3 months. Their survival is important to her, but also for us. Because these are one of the last devil families in the world. Tasmanian devils are now endangered. Found in only a few places, such as this remote islet off the coast of Tasmania. The oceans around southern Asia are also feeling this pressure. These seas feed billions of people around the world. For many fishermen here, their catch is their only source of livelihood. And there is one fish here that they prize above all others. The whale shark. It swims slowly, gently harvesting the plankton. It's almost 20 meters long, the largest fish in the world. They are also under threat. Like many shark species in Asia, populations have declined by more than half in recent years. They are an easy and valuable catch. But here, there is a respect for the seas and their inhabitants. Whale shark hunting has now been banned across Indonesia's waters. This whale shark plays a different part in the lives of these fishermen. They feed him, and the relationship seems to bring joy to both parties. And with this new protection has come something truly remarkable. Whale sharks from far away are seeking out these fishermen, and in these safe waters, there is a chance for their numbers to increase. And maybe one day, other shark species will be protected too. The people here have made a simple but extraordinary choice. Fishing in a way that is sustainable for themselves and the animals. Caring for wildlife is surely our shared responsibility. Across this vast continent and across the world, it is decisions like these that are key to protecting the planet's most precious diversity. Mother is after eggs. But getting them is not going to be easy. The geese will risk their lives to protect their eggs. If they lose them, they can't produce another clutch this season. The fox wins. She gives the first eggs to her young pups. And then heads back for more. Some of the eggs she stashes away. They will be food to help her through the coming winter. In just 3 weeks, she will steal over 800 eggs from the geese. But eating a big egg is not easy if one is rather small. It's a technique the pups haven't quite yet cracked. Mum shows how it's done. Termites, an important source of protein. But perhaps they are an acquired taste. He's off to search for something he might prefer. It's hard to know where to look. Or where it's safe to clamber. Different levels in the forest contain different foods, and some of the most delicious are in the very highest parts of the canopy, 50 meters above the ground. He's a couple of years old, and he's already getting adventurous. His mother could climb right to the top in 10 minutes or so if she wanted to, but she lingers to keep an eye on him. A fall from this height could be fatal. Where the gaps between the branches are too wide for him, his mother lets him use her body as a bridge. Only 10 meters to go before the top. But it's hard going for small hands. He's had enough. Time for a rest with Mother. And this is his reward. Ripe mangoes, sweet and juicy. There's so much he must learn. He will depend entirely on his mother until he's 7. It's the longest of all childhoods, except ours. leopard gecko. It, like most geckos, is nocturnal, and it manages to get all the heat it needs from the rocks, which retain something of their warmth for several hours after the sun has set. This male is in search of a mate. She is less brightly coloured. They inspect one another. He collects her scent with his tongue and discovers that not only is she female, but she's sexually available. He's interested. He nibbles her neck and strokes her flanks, all part of his elaborate courtship routine. Copulation begins. This is the time in mammals and birds when the sex of the young is determined, but not in a number of reptiles, including geckos. Once again, it's temperature that profoundly influences their lives. The female goes away to lay her eggs. She has chosen a place where the temperature is about 31 degrees. As her body is the same temperature as her environment, she can't heat her eggs by sitting on them as warm-blooded birds do, so they're exactly the same temperature as the rocks beneath. After a couple of months, both eggs begin to hatch. The first to emerge is a male. And the second will be too. It's the temperature which has determined that. If it had been a few degrees lower, both eggs would have developed into females. Not much remains of the porpoise after the whales are through with it. Killer whales don't just target prey smaller than themselves. Off the coast of California, a grey whale and her baby are in serious danger. Once again, computer images give the underwater view of an extraordinary hunt. The grey whale calf is just a few weeks old. It's following its mother north towards the summer feeding grounds in Alaska. They've reached Monterey Bay, where a deep trench cuts in from the sea. As they move beyond the trench wall, the grey whales lose their cover. Out in the bay, the killer whales are listening for that telltale sound, the breathing of a great whale. Immediately, their behavior changes. The killers close ranks like a hunting wolf pack. The killer whales have caught up with the mother and calf. And now the chase is on. The grey whales try to outswim their attackers. Fast swimming pushes up the grey whale's breathing rate. A breathless calf is easier to catch. The killers work as a team. Their first goal is to separate the baby from its mother. The grey whale mother is a formidable adversary. She could seriously harm a killer whale with just one slap of her massive tail fluke. One of the attackers pushes between mother and calf. The strategy is working. The grey whales are forced apart. With the baby separated, the killer whales change strategy. Now their goal is to drown the calf. Hunting is only possible for 3 hours around low tide, when the mud banks are exposed. Razor-sharp oysters cover much of the shore. Beaching here could be lethal. The hunters need to find a stretch of shoreline with just the right slope. Too level, and the dolphins risk stranding. Too steep, and they can't force their prey from the water. Working as a team, the dolphins surround the fish, driving them towards the shore. Attacking in perfect synchrony, the dolphins create a bow wave. It carries their prey onto the muddy banks. Other fish eaters profit from their daring. Herons and gulls follow every hunt. To get to the fish first, the dolphins drive themselves high up the bank. But if they go too far, they risk stranding. To prevent fish escaping between them, the dolphins all beach themselves on the same side. Always the right. But this has a cost. Each time they grab a fish, they also take in a mouthful of mud. The grit gradually wears down their teeth. But on one side only. In time, these teeth get so worn down that older dolphins can no longer hunt like this and must find other ways to catch fish. Here, there are other challenges. St Andrews Bay on South Georgia is packed with 500,000 king penguins. In spring, the chicks are left for days whilst their parents are away collecting food for them. There is a simple arrangement. The chicks must stay exactly where their parents left them to be sure of being found again. But this chick has decided to look around. There is a lot to be investigated. But it must not stray too far from its meeting place. This parent has returned with food in its crop. But its chick isn't where it left it. It's hard to stay put when there's so much to play with. Elephant seals are here too. Very mysterious. Finding it in the crowd of youngsters is not going to be easy. They must recognize each other by their calls. But to hear these in such a noisy colony, they must be within 15 meters of each other. Reunited. This is a South American red-eyed tree frog, a close match for the leaves on which it habitually sits. The eggs are not very conspicuous either, just little blobs in transparent jelly. And they're always laid over water. They develop very rapidly. In less than a week, they've become recognizable tadpoles, almost ready for freedom. Then the jelly liquefies and they simply drop into the water beneath. But some don't survive long enough to do so. Wasps raid the cluster and carry off the unhatched tadpoles to feed their young. But the tadpoles are not entirely helpless. By the time they're 5 days old, they know when they're under attack, and what's more, they can do something about it. There. Quick wriggle, and the tadpole drops to safety. The alarm spreads quickly through the whole cluster, and they all take a dive. Their tails are not yet fully developed, but they can swim well enough to take refuge beneath the leaves of the water plants. So, if there's a choice between being carried off by a wasp and taking an early bath, there's no competition. To help her in her quest, she's equipped with 3 superpowers. First, an amazing approach to getting about. Portia is a jumping spider, able to leap up to 50 times her own body length. Nowhere seems beyond her reach. Next, her second superpower, superb eyesight. Essential if she's to distinguish her prey in all this clutter. Because her prey doesn't stray. Portia is a spider-eating spider. This raises a few problems. Her lunch is 3 times her size, packed with venom and surrounded by a sticky trap. Mission impossible? Not at all, because of her third superpower. Portia is a genius. She can map her world in 3 dimensions and formulate a plan of attack. She can have an idea, the web builder is blind. It won't have a clue that she's coming. Right on target, and safely behind those fangs. But a mind as active as Portia's can always do with more brain food. Here, there's no anchor point for the abseil. But Portia has another idea. Instead of going to the spider, she will bring the spider to her. She plucks the strands to imitate struggling prey drawing the spider in to its death. Here on the coast of Peru, there are so many seabirds fishing in the offshore waters that the cliffs are covered in droppings over a metre thick. Humboldt penguins regard the soft guano as a good material in which to dig their nest holes. But it's a messy business. It's the breeding season, and more hopeful nesters arrive, spotless from swimming in the sea. Time for the residents to get cleaned up and catch some fish for themselves and their chicks. To get to the sea, they cross the remains of an old nesting ground. Only 100 metres to go. But the beach is already crowded with sea lions. They too have come ashore to raise their young. And they don't like being disturbed. To get through such a minefield needs a bold and courageous leader. A brave start. A dead end. Now he's in trouble. This is going to need a bit of crowd surfing. But now all the sea lions are roused. Getting through them will be tricky. A cleansing bathe in the ocean. Well worth the effort. I'm in Arizona, and that at my feet is a lizard buried in the sand up to its neck. Even while it's buried, it can use the sunshine to warm its whole body. It can control the supply of blood to its head so that it pools in a cavity behind the eye. Soon, the blood there is as much as 5 degrees above the temperature of the rest of its body. Then the animal opens the major blood vessels in its neck, and the hot blood circulates so that its whole body is thoroughly warmed, even though it's still mostly below ground. This is a horned lizard. And very beautiful too. This particular species is called the regal horned lizard because it has this splendid
crown of spikes at the back of his neck. When he's hidden, they break up the outline of his head, and so you hardly see him at all. And now, in the warmth of my hand and in the sunshine, I guess he's warmed up quite a lot. And if I put him down, he now, at last, may be able to run for it.
And indeed he does. South African armadillo lizards, which live on these rocky outcrops, have a different solution to the problem of safe sunbathing. They've turned it into a social activity. Whole families of them live together in the crevices among the rocks, and in the morning they all emerge to warm up in the sun. Of course, there is safety in numbers. There are lots of eyes to spot danger if it appears. And when one sunbather takes fright, they all dive for safety. If a predator is quick, it is possible to grab one. But even then, an armadillo lizard is not going to be an easy meal.
Ow! They have an additional form of defence. They bite their tails. The reason they do that is that it covers up their vulnerable underside and exposes only these very sharp, spiny scales, which is very good protection against predators like snakes or mongooses. And they stay like this for quite a long time before they're confident enough to uncurl. I'll put him down and see how he does.
Forest once covered 80% of Europe. Now, only half of it remains. A brown bear. One of only 1,500 that are left in Finland's forests. Her cubs have recently emerged from their nursery den. The long summer days means there's plenty of time for play. With two boisterous cubs, it pays to rest whenever you can. But their mother must be on her guard. The cubs have spotted something. A large male looking for a mate. The cubs aren't his, so he might try to kill them. Bear cubs are excellent climbers, and now they're beyond his reach, 15 meters up. Their mother warns him to keep his distance. but the cubs are coming down too soon. She can't take any chances. That was a close call. Finland's forests give us a glimpse of what Europe was once like. A land of endless wilderness where large animals roamed far and wide. The forests of central China. Home to the golden snub-nosed monkey. They will not survive the fast-approaching winter unless they stock up on calorie-rich food. Top of their autumn menu, pine cones. They grow during the summer sunlight and are rich in fats. Few are now left, and time to gather them is running out. Dominant males patrol the troop, making sure they get the pick of the crop. As the number of pine cones dwindles, tensions between rival families increase. Mere threats between two males may not be enough to settle disputes. Conflict is in the air. There's going to be a fight. Vital food is at stake, so every pine cone is worth fighting for. The victor and his family enjoy the spoils of war. The losers get no more than a few dead leaves and will have fewer energy reserves for the coming winter. A giant tortoise. These creatures can float and live without food or fresh water for long periods of time. This isolated atoll is the perfect refuge. Their only enemy is the sun. Without shade, a tortoise risks being boiled in his shell. So, after feeding in the cool of the morning and before the sun becomes too crushingly hot, they have to find cover. All of them. There is very little vegetation, but caves in the coral rock can provide the shade they so badly need. nearly there. All that is left is a white knuckle ride to the bottom. And he's in. Thousands of others are still out in the sun. This tree could shade a couple of hundred if they pack tight. It's bumper-to-bumper parking. Within an hour or so, all must find shade of some sort if they're to survive. Safe. But the future for Aldabra's tortoises is far from certain. The climate is changing, sea levels are rising, and Aldabra's tortoises may soon have to find a new refuge or drown. The water that has kept them safe until now is beginning to dry up. Each year, in the space of a few short months, the Llanos is transformed from a flooded paradise to a baking oven. For some babies, the unrelenting heat and the lack of water has already been too much. Any babies that are left alive will certainly die if they stay here. So the mother decides to leave. Calling to her creche, she sets off across the parched land. In one long cavalcade, they march onwards in search of permanent water. For the mother, this is certainly exhausting. For her babies, with their tiny legs, it must be a real marathon. Some start to fall behind. But she stops. The babies call constantly. She knows exactly where they all are and waits until every single one of them has caught up. Only when all are with her will she set off again. At last, safety. The babies are close to exhaustion. Without such devotion from the female, few, if any, of these baby caiman would have survived. And remarkably, most of them aren't even her own. When parental care was first described in crocodiles, the reports were dismissed as too extraordinary to be true. We may call reptiles cold-blooded, but they can show great tenderness. Meadows that only a few weeks ago were buried beneath the snow are now full of life. But in these mountains, the good times will not last long. So the bears must feed as fast as they can. During the summer months, an adult can put on 180 kilos, gorging on plants. And, if they can catch them, a marmot or two. But just now, the bears have something else on their minds. It's becoming warmer, and the bears are keen to shed their thick winter coats. Mothers show the cubs what to do about this. They'll soon catch on. Some trees, it seems, are particularly suitable for rubbing. Bears have their favourites and will travel long distances to visit them. Some itches just have to be scratched. There are now around 30 bears in this one valley. As they rub, each leaves an individual and recognizable scent. So the tree soon carries a list of who's around, which might help individuals to avoid a fight. To best spread their scent, they really have to put their back into it. But summer is short. Itches satisfactorily scratched. It's time to eat. In a couple of months, they will have to return to their dens to hibernate. So now they must put on as much weight as they can. 1,000 million tons of sea creatures ascend from the deep ocean to search for food near the surface. They graze on the phytoplankton under cover of darkness. Even so, they're far from safe. Other marine hunters follow them, some travelling up from hundreds of meters below. At dawn, the whole procession returns to the safety of the dark depths. They're bullied constantly. And forced to live on the fringes of the troop. As outcasts, their only comfort is each other. He's been snatched, stolen by a higher-ranking female. She is childless, and she wants a baby of her own. He's only a few meters away, but if his mother approaches, the rest of the troop could well attack her. The kidnapper has never raised a baby before, so this one is in danger. They're headed towards a cable car tower. The young mother can't let them out of her sight. They're 30 meters up. If she tries to grab her baby and fails, he could fall to his death. The kidnapper refuses to surrender him. There's one last thing a mother can try, and to do it, she needs to recruit another macaque. Now the mother begins to groom her companions in full view of the kidnapper. All monkeys love to be groomed, even by a low-ranking female. It's the basis for peace in macaque society. Eventually, the urge to join in is just too strong. The kidnap is over, and the youngster can climb back into his mother's arms. If you want to find the greatest number and variety of animals that communicate with light, you have to go to the darkest place on Earth. Somewhere far beyond the reach of the sun's rays, where human beings hardly ever go, to the depths of the ocean. This is the Johnson Sea Link. At the front, it has an array of remotely controlled television cameras and searchlights. I'm sitting beside the pilot in the transparent bubble in the middle, and the whole craft is massively strengthened to withstand the huge pressures of the depths. As we go down, it gets darker and darker. The water is thick with small floating organisms.
Okay, Roger, Sam.
At 600 feet, the water outside is 20 times atmospheric pressure. The temperature is within a few degrees of freezing, and we're far beyond the reach of the sunshine. So you might think in such a hostile environment there would be very few animals living. But watch this. The chorus of light is being made by hundreds of small deep-sea creatures which are flashing in response to my light. And now, if I turn on the lights of the submersible, we may catch a glimpse of one of these strange deep-sea creatures as it drifts by. The pilot has remote controls for the camera outside the sub to search for them in the blackness. This is a comb jelly as big as a football. It's been nicknamed Big Red, but it has yet to be given a proper name. It's new to science. Another new undescribed comb jelly. Although specimens have been brought to the surface, it's only been seen alive through the windows of deep-sea craft like this. It uses a pair of long retractable tentacles to catch fish. A jellyfish, Solomyssus, 2 feet across, which, in spite of the changes of pressure, sometimes swims quite close to the surface. Kiomia, another comb jelly, one that is surrounded by gauzy skirts. But for the most sensational spectacle, you have to turn the lights of the submarine off. A jellyfish outlined by its own pulsing illuminations. A squid, its lights moving as its body throbs. Displays like this may serve for defense or to send messages. No one knows. And most spectacular of all, another jellyfish with its own amazing rhythmic flashing system. A giant black void, larger than all the rest of the world's habitats combined. There's life here, but not as we know it.